Even though this is our third pregnancy, it's our first gender surprise.
I just know it's a boy.
Then explain my weird pregnancy cravings.
Boy or girl, we just want the baby to be healthy.
We've spent months researching the best place to deliver our daughter.
Son.
So, the one thing we're not keeping a surprise?
It's an Eastside baby.
With maternity and NICU experts, breastfeeding support, and more. Celebrate your baby's birthday at Eastside Medical Center. Visit it'saneastsidebaby.com to learn more.
Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Gwinnett Business Radio. Gwinnett Business Radio is cared for by Eastside Medical Center, providing quality care to Gwinnett County and the greater Atlanta area for over 38 years.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome to Gwinnett Business Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio in the wonderful and beautiful, luxurious Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. Mike Salmon alongside the wonderful and beautiful and luxurious Stephen Julian.
Thanks.
Hi, Stephen. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I am really enjoying the new clocks on the wall.
Yes, we've got
You went over and above.
new gadgets to play with here in the
like
studio.
it. I know that we are 1 minute, 7 seconds into this show, or at least the timer that you started. We're actually 1 minute, 35 seconds. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, you are.
I'm distracted.
You're easily distracted.
That's why I don't face the window.
But we've got two wonderful guests here in the studio with us. Joining us from Tradebank is Lee Connor, and joining us from the National Foundation of Patriotism is Pat Stansbury. So stand at attention, put your hand on your heart, and let's be patriotic
Ready
today.
to go.
Let's start off with Lee Connor. He is the regional owner of Tradebank. And Lee, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
For those that are not familiar with Tradebank and what you do, tell us all about your organization.
So Tradebank's a nationwide B2B barter exchange platform. Basically, we're enable the practice of barter between companies, business owners, and independent professionals. We're headquartered just not too far from here in Cumming, Georgia. One of the largest barter exchanges in the world, and we help business owners grow their business through the tools of barter and improve their bottom lines.
Why would a company want to barter and use a trade bank? What are the benefits?
Well, you have to look at why people have always bartered in history to begin with. I mean, you exchange the goods and services in a non-cash transaction, right? And what that does is that it enables you to spend less cash, essentially. The exchanges like Tradebank, it just eliminates some of the difficulties that you find in normal barter agreements. One is, it helps you find somebody who's willing to trade in the first place, but it also makes it multi-directional instead of one-on-one. So just because you might have something I want, but I don't have anything you want, well, then there's no trade possible. But in the platform, that gets rid of that problem, right? And the other issue that you run into a lot of times is you have situations where you have something I want and I got something you want, but the difference in values is so disparate that you can't make it happen logistically. Again, the platform and the currency within the platform that we utilize to lubricate the process, it gets rid of that issue. So the benefits of using an exchange like ours, though, in addition with as many partners as we have in the exchange already, we also have the ability to, once you join up, we can drive all that business to you, right? So additional business that you wouldn't get otherwise, and then also that enables you to earn that trade currency, and you can spend that on other stuff that you would normally spend cash on at full retail value. So it enables you to keep more cash in the business and, again, improve your profit margins.
So for those business owners who have either never done a barter at all, and on top of that, especially those business owners, maybe they've done a little bartering, but they've done the one-on-one kind of off-market just between friends or business associates. Talk me through what it looks like, what the process actually is on Tradebank's exchange. How do I get started? How easy is that? What are my first steps? And what would my first few transactions potentially look like?
Well, so I got a team of brokers that will actually help with that process. So we get everybody onboarded. We find out, what it is that you do. We find out about your business, what you're willing to offer on trade, how much you're willing to trade. And again, the amount that a company trades is entirely up to them. We don't expect anybody to do all their business and trade. That doesn't make sense. But we find all that information out up front. And then what we do is one of my staff members will work with the company that's joining up to figure out how we're going to market their products and services to the rest of the members in the exchange. And then we start blasting that out to everybody. So we generate that interest there. But then what will happen is they will send the request into the brokers. we figure out who all wants to do business with them, and then we present it to them, and they get to choose how much they're willing to do at any given point in time.
I'm imagining there are certain businesses that barter makes a lot of sense for, and there's there's a few of those on the exchange that people can choose from. What are some of the businesses that you, as kind of the leadership, is looking and saying, man, this would be such a great situation for these type businesses, and I just don't see a lot of them on there. So there's an opportunity for that business owner to really get some good bartering business going.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, there's pretty much the only businesses that we don't deal with are the ones that are highly regulated, like various financial services, banks, and things of that nature. Everybody else, there's what I find is, especially with as many of the thousands of companies as we have on the exchange, there's a need for almost every type of business. Now, I will tell you some of the most popular ones that I'm always looking for to add to the exchange are going to be restaurants and entertainment venues, as well as anything having to do with home services, for example, right? I mean, I have a list of about literally 100 companies right now that are waiting for all these different types of home services companies because there's such backlog. So, you know, there's plenty of opportunities like that.
I like that.
And I want to dig into that a little bit more so people understand the choices that they have. Let's say I'm a painter, for example, and I'm willing to is that a bad? You're laughing. Is that a bad example?
No, it's just painting companies. Oh my goodness, man! They're one of the ones I'm going after so badly right now. It's ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
Because everybody's asking for painting companies.
There you go.
Literally, if I have another painting company sign up today, I can book them up for the next 3 months.
Okay,
Wow.
so you're a painting company out there. Get in touch with Lee Connor with Tradebank ASAP. So I'm one of those painters, and I'm willing to trade out my services. I could actually trade out for. With a travel company, travel agent for maybe a trip for me and my family. I could trade out for a restaurant here and go have a meal there, or an entertainment at an amusement park. I mean, there's just so many choices.
Oh, absolutely. Well, look, let me tell you a story real quick. So I have this guy that owns a electrical contracting company. He got on board, and he ended up doing a few lighting retrofits for some of the restaurant business that the restaurants that we have in the exchange. But then he took the funds that he earned and basically took his family of 5 down to the Gulf Coast, because we are a nationwide company, so we have businesses all over the country, and took his family down there. He ended up renting beachfront house on trade. He took his family to several restaurants on trade. He came back and said, I only spent about $500 of my own money down there because I spent all the rest of it on trade, retail shops, everything. So that's obviously in a travel situation. But yeah, travel agents are a hot commodity item as well. If people want tickets to various events, we can handle that kind of stuff too.
So I was thinking, as a business owner, that's a fantastic story, and everybody's going, I would love to go to to barter for a trip. That's a very reasonable, realistic expectation. I'm thinking of the business owner who's going, who's thinking, I'd like to barter for some of the services I need to run my business, like an accounting or bookkeeping, or And you talked about the highly regulated. Are there some services that people might think, oh, that's not available, but as a business owner, I could go, hey, I could barter for some of those services rather than going into my cash flow for that?
Yeah, so let me tell you, I personally have an accountant that I use on trade, for example, that takes care of all my corporate taxation issues, as well as some of my bookkeeping. I have some law firms. Actually, I talked to a lawyer the other day that does real estate closings, right? And he didn't believe I'd be able to find people willing to use him or able to work with him on trade, and I found 3 of them within the first week. There's law firms, there's accounting firms, it's a wide array of both white collar and blue collar type jobs that are available.
And I think one of the major value adds, and this isn't really a question, this is almost an unsolicited testimonial, but I would imagine one of the big value adds is how good those brokers, the team behind you and behind Tradebank that helps the new business owner who becomes a new member, help them. We don't join just to join another service. We want to trade our goods and services for things back that we would need or would find value in. And a lot of that is going to be the education of the people who work for Tradebank, correct?
Well, yeah, and look, I got to tell you, man, the staff at Tradebank makes me look good, okay? I mean, they're outstanding. I'm really good at going out and meeting people and getting them interested in the idea, but when it comes to the actual execution of everything on a day-to-day basis, that's the team of brokers that we have working for Tradebank. They're outstanding.
We're talking with Lee Connor. He's the regional director or regional owner of Tradebank. And so I could be trading out all my services, whatever they may be, or products, or, well, I guess be more service. Well, services and products.
For you, for Business RadioX, it would be trading out, I would imagine, showtimes.
Right. So I could be trading this all out, and I could be accruing all this credit, or however is it called, credit or cash dollars or trade dollars?
Trade dollars.
Trade dollars over time. do I ever lose them? Do I have to spend them within a certain amount of time?
No, they're going to stay with you as long as you're with us, and that's actually one of the advantages of Tradebank over some of the competition, quite frankly, because what you'll find is that you have these other barter companies across the country that pop up sometimes, but they don't make it. We've been around for 32 years. We're not going anywhere. We're one of the most firmly established barter exchanges in the country.
Yeah.
We actually get your newsletter every couple of weeks from the Tradebank, and I've seen a couple where you can actually trade out for a car. I mean, for maybe not a new car, but for an actual car. I mean, what's the craziest thing that you could trade for right now?
I don't know what I think the craziest thing is. I think the craziest thing is just the wide variety of stuff that does sell and how fast it sells. Like, so for example, we have a Tradebank app that has a marketplace on there with people from all over the country just posting these on there. And box trucks, for example, your typical U-Haul thing somebody puts on there, they sell within the hour.
Wow.
I saw a $10,000 brand new conveyor belt washing machine for restaurants go on there and sell within a couple of days. But at the same time, somebody sold a box of 500 Keurig K-cups that they had that was brand new, never opened, and then somebody else is selling jewelry. I mean, it's constantly changing and updating all the time. It's fascinating.
It seems that the craziest thing is only the limit of someone's imagination and finding someone else in the trade bank who's willing to exchange it. I was going to ask this question because I know people who haven't yet done it or haven't yet experienced it. I think it's a two-pronged question. One is there ever a situation where what I have can be exchanged out for real dollars? Or if the answer to that is no, is there an exchange where I can get, so Mike was talking about a car or something like, so I'm going after a big ticket. I can use some of my trade dollars and then also work out a cash for the remainder of the balance. Is that a possibility?
It is possible. We obviously want to encourage that everybody use the trade itself, or use fully trade. But I mean, there are situations where, for example, some companies, if they have a really high materials cost, and I'll use roofing as an example. There have been scenarios where they'll do roof repairs for 100% on trade. But if there's a roof replacement, for example, I mean, the cost of the job could be almost 70-80% materials and supplies. So we can take that into account, work that out with them, so they charge part of that with cash and part of it in trade.
Well, Lee, for those that would like to find out more about Tradebank and maybe look into your services, what's the best way to do that?
Well, there's multiple options for that. I mean, obviously, you can go look up Tradebank of either Tradebank or Tradebank of Atlanta on Facebook. You can go to the website. It's www.tradebank.com. That's Tradebank just spelled like it sounds, trade and bank. Or you can email me directly at lconner@tradebank.com. That's LCONNER@tradebank.com. And
And I believe we have a guarantee that your team will make you look good to anyone who emails you, right?
They make me look awesome.
That's a great guarantee.
Is that a full-time job?
Making me look awesome? Yeah, they get overtime for that.
Okay, good. Lee, thank you for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you guys for having me.
Mike, before we get to our next guest, just want to remind everybody that Subaru of Gwinnett is the studio sponsor for Gwinnett Business Radio, and love is what makes a Subaru. Our listeners can get big savings and enjoy a hassle-free experience at Subaru of Gwinnett, where people sell cars. Visit SubaruofGwinnett.com and join their family today. Come in and see the difference, or maybe, like Mike, you're already a Subaruist. Then follow Subaru of Gwinnett's Facebook page for the latest Subaru offers, news, and community events. We should play the song like Mike. Of course, Gatorade would want some money, but
yeah,
when we do that.
Well, maybe they'll trade out for the rights to
there
play
you
that
go.
song.
I like it.
Yeah, if they're members of the Trade Bank or not.
Okay.
All right, joining us now is Pat Stansbury. Pat is the executive director with the National Foundation of Patriotism, and she's all decked out in her red, white, and blue. She's got a beautiful, American flag scarf and everything. So, Pat, thank you for coming in today.
It is so great to be back with you, Mike. I've been here a couple of times before. And
it's been a while, though.
It's been a while, and I have to say I love business radio. And my board members will call me and say, "What are you doing on business radio?" Well, I think patriotism is for everybody. I have a motto on patriotism in business, so it makes perfect sense for us to be here, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
Well, glad to have you. National Foundation of Patriotism. People may be listening and going, well, that sounds kind of unique and different. What does your organization do?
We are unique. And interestingly, I believe we're not that different from what most good organizations do, good business does. The National Foundation of Patriotism focuses on civility. We focus on bringing people together. We focus on the concept of patriotism being love of country, respect for natural resources, things that we typically do every day in our hearts, and we hold these values. We don't always talk about them, and today, this is the best time to be in patriotism because the word has been hijacked to mean so many different things. But the truth of the matter is patriotism is a unifying word, opposite of nationalism, which is a separating word. Patriotism is something that we all need. It holds us together. It's held us together as a nation for many, many years, a couple of centuries.
Well, sometimes it's easy to forget, you know, and Independence Day, July 4th, we celebrate it, and other than maybe a tragedy or something, sometimes we forget about patriotism. How is it relevant in our day-to-day lives?
That is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. It is relevant in the daily lives of our citizens because we have to remember first who we are as a nation. We are the greatest nation, I believe, in the world, but more importantly, we're the most powerful nation in many ways, particularly in the best ways. A strong, patriotic America leads itself to a greater and safer global community. America is on the front line of every natural disaster, every nation that's in serious trouble and really needs help. We're right there. So there's a lot of really great and positive things about our country and patriotism that people aren't talking about. And one of the reasons I love to get on these shows is for the opportunity to remind everybody all of those values you hold so dear in your heart. Sometimes you look back at our age or my age over the old TV shows you used to watch, and everybody had a flag on their front porch and everybody went to church on Sunday and the families were all together. Well, it looks different today, but it doesn't have to. And if there's anything I want everyone to take away from anytime I get on a stage or a microphone, it doesn't have to be that way. You can be the kind person. I say I'm American born with Italian parts. I have family dinner on Sunday. Everybody's invited, friends and neighbors. You can still do that. You don't have to look back at Mayberry RFD and say, I wish we were. And I think for all of us, that's an important message that's getting lost.
So when it comes to the National Foundation of Patriotism, what are some of the specific activities or specific programs or specific goals that you guys are trying to reach? What are some of the things that you're doing beyond the family dinner, which sounds great, I'd like to show up some Sunday and enjoy that.
Yeah, and you can. And if you want to go to the blog posts on our website, foundationofpatriotism.org, you'll find what to do around that family table. I actually guide parents how to actually get back to family dinner.
Nice.
But the National Foundation of Patriotism is derived from our original mission, which was the National Museum of Patriotism, at one point located in downtown Atlanta. We had about 12,000 followers. We raised a lot of money through corporate and private enterprises to do everything from just letting the nation know that there is an organization that is a quiet organization of unity. We call ourselves the cool hand on the fevered brow of a chaotic America. This last, election and certainly the next election, that's just great times for us because as much as people scream about negative things, you can come to the foundationofpatriotism.org, and you can find yourself there. You can get your patriotic batteries recharged there. One of the things I absolutely love about we do not throw a flag in your face and tell you what it is to be a patriot. We respect that you have your own patriotic values, your own American values, and we just like to light your fire. You'll find we have an education program that's so subtle we don't even call it an education program. Sometimes words in this particular political climate can be a real detriment. And so you work your way around words. That's what unifying people do.
You said in your first answer, you talked about how patriotism is different from nationalism, and I think you'd use the term hijacked, how patriotism in some terms has been hijacked. It sounds like the foundation's main purpose is to really have people remember that patriotism is a unifier, not a divider. And in unifying, it does need to be acknowledged that my patriotism is different from yours or my opinions. So there are differences, but the patriotism is what's supposed to bring us together to allow those differences to move us forward.
Exactly.
Am I stating that?
You're stating it better than most people state it.
thank
and
you.
thank you for giving me some new fodder. So no,
Hashtag. That's yours for free. Free marketing.
thank you.
I'm sharing it. We're unifying together.
And we're unifying
And
today.
and so then my question becomes out of that. It sounds like probably the main purpose is to just try and get everybody to stop shouting.
Yes.
And let's start talking.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
And
I
listening.
have 4 kids and 8 grandkids and 1 great-grandson. And I've found over the years that the best way to get attention is to be quiet. You get a lot more listeners when you're actually silent. My kids will say, uh-oh, if she's not talking, you better stop. And so it's an interesting thing. I learned that as a mom. It pays off as an adult. At the National Foundation of Patriotism, as mentioned earlier, we had 12,000 members in the museum. We now have over 350,000 members now, and growing. One of the programs that we run is what we call our exhibit program, which is for teachers, educators, parents, and you, basically. You get a chance to go under each tab. There's 22 tabs on the site. Some of them are not built out yet, and we continue. We encourage people to help us to build these out because we believe this is America's organization. We believe the National Museum of Patriotism was America's museum. Well, the National Foundation of Patriotism is America's foundation.
Can you repeat the line about being silent again? Can you say that again? I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that, but I'm sitting here thinking that is a hashtag, that is a trend. Can we get all politicians and a lot of media outlets to follow so the more silent or the more I listen, I'm gonna mess it up. Can you say
the quieter I get, the more you listen.
The quieter I get, the more you listen. Mm-hmm. That needs to be a campaign slogan every year.
Well, maybe it will be.
Man, that's a good one.
One of the great things about the exhibit page is educators, teachers, parents, and you can go on there and you can get your patriotic batteries recharged. One of my favorites. You'll see them in 22 clean-looking tiles, images, words, a lot of white space. But every one you tap on has lots of exhibits underneath them, so you can choose for yourself. One of the greatest ones I love is the Symbols of America exhibit because it reminds us of the value of symbols. Symbols are another thing that are quiet. They're quiet, but they're profound. And when you see something, like say we have this, one of the greatest symbols is the White House. We actually have geotechnology on there, so you can actually go into the White House. You sit at your computer. You can actually take a look at the inside of the White House if you've never been there. It's pretty cool. The other exhibit is the space exhibit, Patriotism in Space. We're so excited about this. It's still being built. We got some good stuff on. But if you go on that one, you actually get an experience in space. On your screen, in your chair, wherever you are, you're going to see an actual video of what astronauts saw when they looked outside the window. We have several scientists that are on our board of advisors. We've got some NASA advisors on our board of advisors for that exhibit too. So it's a really fun thing to build out. What I love most about it is teachers who have to work in let's say communities that are less interested in patriotic values, I guess, if you'd say it like that. They have an option to go and to actually use some different images and some different language and still get a point across without just shoving it in their face. And I love that about what we do.
Our guest is Pat Stansbury with the National Foundation of Patriotism here on Gwinnett Business Radio. Because you speak a lot and you go to a lot of places and you give talks and you go on media and so forth, I'm going to assume that you probably get the question that for sports fans, the Colin Kaepernick thing, Megan Rapinoe with the U.S. women's sports teams, the ones that either kneel during national anthems or refuse to acknowledge the national anthems, I'm assuming you get asked your opinion on that all the time. How do you respond?
Well, I could say this. Being asked my opinion, quote unquote, is a very quiet thing to say. Yes, I do get a lot of interest in that topic. I will say this, and I always make it personal, because patriotism is personal. My brother served in the Vietnam War as a volunteer. He enlisted when everybody else was getting drafted. He came out honorably discharged. I have his book here today for you, Mike. We are selling his book online at foundationofpatriotism.org. My son is a West Point officer. a volunteer. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2 tours in Iraq, saved a lot of men and women's lives, served with some honorable people, all of which volunteer today. So when I sit and watch a game and I watch people disrespect our flag, it means something to me. So this is the way that I address that. My son and my brother fought for your right to disrespect the flag. I'll leave it with you to decide how it makes you feel. I can't dictate to you, but I can tell you how it makes me feel for them.
Well, and that's where the controversy happens, because a lot of folks say they're not disrespecting the flag, but that your brother or your son fought for the right that they can do what they want.
Absolutely, even though it hurts me.
It goes back and forth.
Well, and I think the important thing is to leave people with the impression that they may not be thinking about, that it's hurting somebody. Your right may be okay to do. There's things that are legal to do that aren't right to do. You have the right to go out and kill somebody, and if you're not caught, you get away with that too. But it hurts somebody. And so at the Foundation of Patriotism, again, we don't throw a flag in your face and tell you what it is to be a patriot. We will never stand up and yell and rail against the Kaepernicks of the world and these types of people. We've had this since the Revolution. This is not new. I think that's a point that is not well made today. I think it needs to be made. This is nothing new. This has been going on for years. The only thing that's changed it is we now have the megaphone of social media, and the world is now engaged. What's really interesting to me, on our social media, we have people from countries I've never even heard of that are joining us and commenting in positive ways about what America has done for their country. American soldiers are loved around the world. Don't buy the garbage that a handful of people are trying to sell, that the world hates America. The world does not. And I'll give you one story that if I can get through it without crying, I will, but I'm going to not even apologize if I don't.
The tissues are nearby.
Okay, I'm ready. My daughter-in-law is of Peruvian descent. She became an American citizen. I went to her naturalization ceremony with my son, who had just literally practically stepped off of the plane out of war on his leave. There was a Iraqi woman with her child at that service becoming a natural citizen. When my grandchildren were playing with each other with her little girl, and two grandmas struck up a conversation, and when she heard that my son was a West Point officer, she started to cry, and she hugged me so tight, and she said, if it weren't for the American soldiers, we'd never be here today. And she held up her finger, and it was still stained with the stain many of us remember, where they were able to vote for the first time. This woman lived in captivity all of her life. Those people live in captivity for centuries. So for America to roll in and just expect them to immediately conform to everything we believe, that's not realistic. But love always overrides hate, and good always overrides evil, and light always overrides darkness. The National Foundation of Patriotism is about being good and light and helpful and kind. Civility is so necessary, and we need to do it now.
Well, on that note, Pat, for those individuals or businesses that would like to support your organization, your foundation, what's the best way for them to engage and do that?
Any way they can. They can go to foundationofpatriotism.org and click on our donate page, and they can give us a lot of money. I will say to anybody that does want to support us, million is spelt with 2 L's. We were very, very grateful.
Billion starts with a B.
And billion starts with a B. And we do barter. So we'll talk about that later, Lee. I appreciate you.
You won't shove a flag in their face, but we will sell you a
But
flag.
we'll sell you a
Yeah,
flag
there you go.
and many other flag-related items. We do encourage everybody to check out that website, and we certainly encourage you to support us. We do have a campaign running right now if you're interested. If anybody's interested in showing their patriotism, we are working to get a man named Rick Rescorla the Presidential Medal of Freedom. We have an online petition. If you're interested in learning about Rick, you can go on, read all about it. Once you read his story, you are going to so want to be a part of this. Everybody that signs this petition, as soon as we get the president's attention, whether or not he actually awards that honor, which we do believe he will. We have a lot of incredible people very close to the president taking my handwritten letter to him, including Bill Bennett. William J. Bennett has joined me. We co-wrote a letter together to the president, and I'm so honored that Bill allowed me to say that today publicly. And so we're gonna win that award we're going to win this effort to get that award for Rick Rescorla. But everybody that joins us will get a Patriotism Award. So we're really excited about that. And you just go to Facebook, look us up. I say the best way to find us, go to the website, www.foundationofpatriotism.org, and click on all of our social media buttons. You'll find a lot of great people there.
Foundationofpatriotism.org. Pat, thank you so much.
Thanks. It's great being here.
All right. We went a little over today, but time well spent on the show.
Well, talking patriotism and bartering, those are two very, very good topics. And hope people learned some stuff and thought about some stuff. The one thing I'll say is for those people who say that it's never been this bad politically or anything like that, do a Google search and read differing political opinions of whatever president you want to choose. Go as far back as you want. The things that Lincoln's opponent said about him, the things that FDR's opponent said, doesn't matter the party of your favorite presidents. Find what the other party was saying about them. It sounds a lot like today, so that never changes. And patriotism is working through that through incivility. So anyway, that was my 2 cents for what it was worth. Mike, I want to remind everybody that Gwinnett Business Radio is cared for by Eastside Medical Center. Quality care close to home. Eastside Medical Center has been a community healthcare leader for over 39 years. Nationally recognized for patient safety, Eastside focuses on delivering quality care with exceptional outcomes by using the most advanced technology and experienced physicians. For more information on Eastside System of Care, visit eastsidemedical.com.
And a reminder, you can enjoy these programs anytime you want, 24/7, by going to businessradiox.com, select the Gwinnett Studio, and you can catch this episode and all our other episodes as well. We also want to remind you to like us on Facebook at Gwinnett Radio X, follow us on Twitter at Gwinnett Radio X, and connect with us on LinkedIn at Gwinnett Business Radio X.
Or come up and see us at a local networking event.
Absolutely. We'll be at a lot of the chamber events.
Yeah.
And like Pat, we're all over social media.
There you go.
So we want to thank our listeners. We want to thank our guest, Pat Stansbury with the National Foundation of Patriotism, and Lee Connor with Tradebank. Our thanks to our engineer and producer, Trey, our director of sales and marketing, Amanda, as well. For Stephen, you have something you want to say?
No.
You want to do the Pledge of Allegiance or something?
I feel like it, or singing the national anthem, but we want listeners to keep listening, so I won't sing.
No. I'm Mike. We'll see you next time here on Gwinnett Business Radio.